Well, if you are grateful for one thing this week, it's most likely your air conditioning. But after a year where we've already seen extreme weather knock out power in just every corner of the country, our Autumn Dexter shares how energy providers are doing what they can to make sure that your AC stays on.
It's about 60,000 solar panels over about 160 acres.
This week marks a milestone for MG&E as Dane County's largest solar farm, just off Seminole Highway in Fitchburg, opens for business.
It's a 20 megawatt project. It is providing clean energy right here locally.
And spokesperson Steve Schultz says it's coming at the right time.
On days like this where we're in the 90s, when everybody has their air conditioning on and they're saying, boy, it's still hot, I'm even going to crank it up higher. You know, we have to have enough energy to meet the needs and that peak demand.
In July 2019, during a similar stretch of high heat, an MG&E substation caught fire, knocking out power for much of the isthmus. And while that fire wasn't because of the heat, Schultz says conversations afterwards focused on the mission of keeping the lights on and having a backup plan to the backup plan no matter what.
That's part of the reason why we maintain and work on our infrastructure, work on our equipment to make sure that those days don't happen.
Across town at Alliant, the message is the same. Have multiple sources of energy so that on days and weeks like today, if something goes down, there's a backup.
We have a broad energy mix and a lot of diverse resources that are involved, so we don't have all of our eggs in one basket. And especially during these times, during peak demand and high temperature events, that diverse mix really has served us well.
And as more people consume more energy in our area, the solar farm is just one way to make sure you're not left out to melt.
You want the lights to go on. You know, whenever, on the hot days, on the cold days, when you get home from work, when you get up in the morning, you want the lights to go on.
One thing Alliant says they want to keep in mind also is that people don't lose power during a severe weather event because they can't afford to pay their bill. You can find out a link to more on our website. That's at channel3000.com. And Beloit police arrested 2 men on homicide charges and are still looking for a third. Police say they arrested Eliante Pfeiffer and Damian Allen earlier on Friday morning. They also issued a warrant for Journey Weathers. Now, according to a criminal complaint, Weathers is accused of shooting the victim following a fight over a car payment. Anyone with information about the shooting or Weathers' location should contact Beloit Police. And you will notice that flags will be flying at half-staffed here in Wisconsin today. That's as Governor Tony Evers has ordered flags to be flown that way in honor of a Boscoville firefighter who died of COVID-19 on May 31st. A celebration of life is also planned for Joshua Feedy today in Boscoville. Prior to his death, now Feedy worked with the Boscoville Fire for 9 years and also worked for the Prairie du Chien Fire and Department of Corrections and Natural Resources. And things are starting to return to normal in the Windy City as well as Chicago entered its final phase of reopening plans yesterday. That means there are no more capacity limits on businesses, large events, conventions, amusement parks, and any other type of venue in Illinois. Now, Wrigleyville was one of those first to open up full capacity on Friday and lift some restrictions for its ticket holders. Now, state officials are still asking for unvaccinated people to wear masks and socially distance in public. And President Biden and other world leaders wrapped up day 1 of the G7 summit in Cornwall, England. As expected, the pandemic and climate change were top of the agenda. Skylar Henry reports from Washington.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson welcomed President Biden and other world leaders to the G7 summit, about a year after the pandemic forced it to go remote.
It is genuinely wonderful to see everybody in person.
As they opened the day's discussions in southwestern England, Johnson said he hopes lessons can be learned from the pandemic.
What risks being a lasting scar is that I think that inequalities may be entrenched.
And urged efforts at heading off growing economic inequality. Johnson also said a high-tech battle against global warming can benefit everyone.
I think there is the potential to generate many, many millions of high-wage, high-skill jobs.
Outside the summit, protesters demanded climate action and turned up the heat on leaders.
You praise Boris Johnson for these new climate policies, yet he flies across the country to a climate summit. Can you not see the hypocrisy?
Joined by their spouses, the G7 allies wrapped up day one with a dinner hosted by the British royal family. Prince Charles spoke about tackling crises through public and private mobilization.
We are doing it for the pandemic. So, if you don't mind me saying so, we must also do it for the planet.
On Sunday, President Biden will meet one-on-one with Prince Charles's mother, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. The White House says the two met once before in 1982, when he was a U.S. Senator from Delaware. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Next week, President Biden will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Switzerland. Now, pop-up clinics continue to help those vaccine numbers grow right here. Yesterday, University Health Services offered the Johnson & Johnson vaccine at a pop-up clinic at the Porter Boathouse. It was open to students and also faculty and the community. Over the past week, they've given out about 300 vaccines at these type of pop-up events.
It's convenient. We're able to offer the vaccine for anyone within the community, and we want to show where people are. So, for example, this is also a testing location. So being able to pair a testing location with the vaccine clinic feels like a wonderful opportunity.
UHS says they plan to continue these type of pop-up clinics. Another one is scheduled for the Kohl Center on Friday. And a big donation for the Hunger Task Force yesterday. New Glarus Brewing presented them with $40,000. Now, the Hunger Task Force plans to reinvest that money in Greene County with Chalet Cheese Co-op, which they toured on Friday. Now, other dairy partners as well. It's all a celebration for the success of the dairy recovery program when the pandemic hit. The Hunger Task Force established the Wisconsin Dairy Recovery Program to help purchase milk that would have otherwise been spoiled.
We have purchased more than 7 million pounds of Wisconsin dairy and distributed it all across the state. All 72 counties were served. Food pantries, soup kitchens, homeless shelters, food banks received that milk, received that cheese, and as a result, hungry people were fed.
More than 40 Wisconsin producers were included in the recovery program, and more than 250,000 Wisconsin families benefited from it. Our time right now is 8:07. Coming up, we have an update on the hundreds and thousands of people in Puerto Rico still without power. Plus, we are taking a live look outside of the Capitol this Saturday morning as Austin is tracking our forecast. That's just ahead.